Welcome to the We Win Injury Law Podcast, everyone. I'm Tyler Todd, your host, sitting here with my co-host, Jaren, the Snow Canyon Man Sandberg.
We got like sing-songy.
That was
great. Let's go.
I was feeling that.
Yeah.
Our beloved Ginger. Oh. Should I keep going?
You say it. Say it.
I don't have anything else.
That was good.
It was enough, right?
If you didn't know by the sound of my voice and how soothing it was, yes, I am a ginger.
Yes. And he is very beloved. So, anyways, welcome everybody. Look, we're going to talk about something that's super important. I feel like this is our MO. And I hope this is who we are. I like to be transparent, authentic. I like to be like, hey, this is how it is. Now, are we advocates, and do we like to make you feel great and be positive and rah, rah, rah? Of course. Everybody does. I mean, so in fact, we were just talking in our home, sometimes it's easy to be negative. And on the flip side of that is being positive. So if you're just trying to always be positive, that's a good thing. So we want to be positive, but we also want to keep it real. Because if we say, hey, we're going to get you a $951 million verdict, that serves no one, especially our clients.
If they can't collect it.
It could be 1 million if you can't collect. It doesn't, the amount doesn't matter, but we want to make sure that we are telling our clients what to expect, how it works, what are the risks, what are the chances, all those things, because we want our clients to make, and we want to make informed decisions and make good ones. Because at the end of the day, the best interest of our clients is what's most important. So we're talking about malpractice cases, and we do malpractice cases at We Win Injury Law. We have some parameters in those cases that we take because they are very difficult cases.
Yeah. I would say they're almost like Spain Spanish to Mexican Spanish. I mean, there's a big difference, right? Medical malpractice is almost like learning a new version of personal injury.
Yeah, you really have to know what you're doing. And I talked about this actually on Plead Your Case. It's a new show that we have with the hostesses of Good Things Utah. And then I actually saw it, ironically, I saw it from another law firm down in Vegas. They were talking about kind of the same thing. Bad results is not synonymous with the malpractice of a doctor.
We get a lot of those.
Sometimes there are just bad results. We're human beings, and our bodies sometimes react to medicines or surgeries just differently.
And sometimes even negatively. And even those are foreshadowed. Your doctor tells you, hey, this could happen. This has a big risk.
Right.
Now, if you've ever seen and this is the analogy I like to use when I'm talking to people for malpractice, is if you've ever seen a commercial on some medication, and right at the very end of that commercial, they rattle off known complications include, headaches, bleeding from your eyes, death. They list off 60. Your surgeon. I was going to
say something else, but I better not.
But your surgeon can't, when they're doing a normal surgery, they're going to give you the highlights of, hey, here's the complications, there's risks in the surgery, here's the 12 things. But the law doesn't require that they list everything. Remote possibility under the sun that your dental implant could mess up the anesthesiologist and have issues, right? Your teeth could, they can't list every single one. They'd spend a month trying to explain all of the potential ramifications from going into a simple surgery. And so because of that, and I like Keith Mitnick, Florida attorney, I love his line of, it's not just showing that bad outcome, it's, did the doctor do what no other good doctor should do? Right. That's a standard. That's oversimplifying it, but that's something that I think most people can relate with. Is when I have that conversation with people on the phone, is I'm like, look, I hate that this happened to you. I feel terrible about it. but you're going to have a pretty hard stretch showing that this doctor did what no other good doctor would do here.
Right.
I mean, and some examples that are like easy for people to figure out, right? Like they leave a scalpel inside your body and sew you up.
Well,
right?
we were talking about this yesterday. A Florida doctor has just been, we were talking about another case recently about manslaughter. A Florida doctor has just been charged with manslaughter because he removed the liver rather than the spleen from his patient.
Clear, easy malpractice.
Easy malpractice. That is, you remove the wrong organ, easy malpractice.
And you had a case a few years ago that the client went in for a type of knee surgery. Doctor slipped and sliced through the ACL.
Right.
Which was not the surgery they were doing. Was not a slice your ACL surgery.
But they even argued that was a known complication. That was like a risk of surgery. So that was, we resolved the case in favor of our client. But yeah, it was.
I read the transcript, but didn't you get him to say like, oh, it's a known complication. So how many of these have you done? It was like thousands of knee surgeries. And how many times have you done this? Well, this is only one. Any in medical school or while you're going through residency? No.
They will. I mean, look, they're tough cases because we hold our doctors in high regard. They're our shining like knights in white coats.
It's like
even President Trump is a doctor, right?
Yeah. It's like, well, and we do this with politicians. It's like, oh yeah, from California they're terrible, but none of them from Utah. It's always like, and there's probably terrible doctors out there, but not ours.
What are your thoughts on the President Trump AI image or whatever of him basically in like Jesus robes?
Well, I thought it was Dr. Robes.
Dr. Robes. Sorry. It's Dr. Robes.
Dude,
the internet is undefeated.
I mean,
I will say the memes that have come out. This is a total sidetrack.
I love
the
it.
memes that have come out with Trump in the like. Oh, I sent you one, didn't I?
You sent it to me.
With him on the White House doing that interview where he's like, I thought the image of me was I was a doctor.
Yeah.
So the video that I sent you was that same interview, but then now he's like in robes and he has like a crown of thorns. Was crazy.
The internet is undefeated. Well, and do you remember Trump said the thing about like maybe we could put bleach the COVID out of people?
Right. I mean, anyways, that was a wild one.
But that kind of doctoring would make our cases a lot easier. But the problem we have in most cases is, and there's been some of them, like one of our hardest cases that was, $1 million in money was paid out by the doctor and their insurance. You were kind of like, the doctor was sympathetic.
Yeah.
And part of his testimony was like, even though my practice doesn't allow it, if I could have sat with that patient all night, now knowing the outcome in hindsight, I would have.
Right.
And so it's it's not that we think that there's because the doctors that are out there to do harm, they're going to get charged with criminal charges, and it's pretty egregious, and it makes a really easy case. But most doctors aren't. I think they're all trying to do their best.
Oh, I would think so. But for example, the Florida doctor that removed the wrong organ. That's not just, you think most people would say, okay, that doctor committed malpractice, but it's not just the doctor. It could have been the nursing staff, right? It could have been the hospital facility that failed to implement policies and procedures to prevent that type of thing from happening. Yeah. So when you're the family member of the deceased in that in that incident, and then you potentially hire a malpractice lawyer, you're looking at it and saying, where along the line did we screw up? Was it the nursing staff that failed to mark or failed to properly identify which organ? Was it the doctor who also did the same? And again, was it the hospital that failed to train nursing staff and actually have those policies and procedures in place so that type of thing wouldn't happen in the operating room? But there's a number of things you look at to say, who's at fault?
Yeah. And a lot of times I want to say in most of the cases, it's kind of a group effort. In one of our cases where there was this hematoma forming over a period of, 8 hours. And again, you can narrow me on that timeline, but it was almost like it started with one nurse where they got the idea that like, oh, this is a pain addict.
Right.
And then kind of poisoned the next nurse that was taking over. Said, oh, she's just a pain addict.
Right.
And we had that testimony. And that took I don't know how many depositions you did in that case. I don't know, 30, 20.
A lot.
It was a lot of depositions to get kind of that, here's what went wrong, because it wasn't, even though the result was that a woman was paralyzed, the whodunit was a lot of people. And I feel like even now, I don't know if you can just point it to one person.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just say one. I mean, and we, luckily this is where we hire experts, and luckily and unluckily, it's really expensive. But our expert was able to identify, 8 of the nurses all made pretty egregious mistakes that all led to this outcome.
Right. And that's where, when we talk about how medical malpractice cases are complicated, more oftentimes than not, it's not as cut and dry as removing the wrong organ.
Yeah.
And then it's not as cut and dry as having an expert identify and say, here's the clear breach. More oftentimes than not, we're talking to experts that are saying, well, it's a known complication. And to me, it doesn't seem like, based on the records, that the doctor did anything wrong.
Yeah.
It seems like it was just a bad outcome, and that does happen.
Yeah, I have a case that we brought in an expert to consult on, that a gentleman went in for a shoulder surgery, and if you remember, they broke his arm during the shoulder surgery. And first glance, you hear those facts, me and you both were like, oh, probably malpractice. And then when we got into it with a shoulder surgeon and the expert,
A shoulder surgeon?
Shoulder surgeon who sells seashells by the seashore.
Yes.
Toy boat, 5 times fast. Was like, the first thing he told me was, well, there's 20 ways to skin a cat on a shoulder surgery.
Right.
A shoulder surgery. A shoulder surgery. That's what it sounds like, shoulder surgery.
The surgeon said that?
Yeah, the surgeon said that for the shoulder. But he said there's 20 ways to skin a cat on this surgery, and it is a known complication. That does happen, because he basically said the amount of force you have to push the shoulder back into place can break an arm. And so a lot of times when we consult with these experts, it leads to, and we've explored a lot of cases over the years. You hear a call, but then the first thing you're looking at is it a known complication? And if it is a known complication, a lot of times there's not a lot you can do. Because, again, that's not the doctor doing what no other good doctor would do. Most of the time, that's just a bad outcome from a surgery or a medical procedure.
Right. Well, if you feel like we get a lot of inquiries about malpractice cases. So if you feel like you may have a malpractice case, reach out to us. The consults are always free. We'll tell you. And there might be, we don't have the immediate answers. We have to do our research and evaluation. But let me just advise everybody of this. If you reach out to us, or reach out to any other lawyer for that matter, and you think you might have a case, you're more than welcome to do that, and we'll always talk to you. But something that's super important is make sure you have the records. Make sure that you have the records, because the first thing we're going to tell you is, or ask you is, do you have the records? Because without the records to substantiate what was actually done, it's very difficult to give you an opinion on whether you may have a case or not. So, and you're absolutely entitled to get those records. So if you think you may have a case, get the records, and so if it's like a surgery, get the operative reports. You are entitled to all of those records. They are your records. So request them and get them. Second, you have a 2-year statute of limitations in Utah to bring a case against a doctor or a hospital or any type of medical malpractice claim. You have 2 years. That's the statute of limitations. You have to do it within 2 years.
1 year if it's University of Utah affiliated.
Yeah, that's super important, because if it's the University of Utah medical or hospital, anything related to the University of Utah, it's 1 year, because the University of Utah is a government entity.
And remember, their doctors from University of Utah practice in other hospitals like University Healthcare, Primary Children's Hospital has university. So anything that's affiliated with a university at all is going to get government immunity protections with a 1 year notice of claim requirement, and then the 2 years notice of intent to commence action.
Great point. So that's super important. So get your records. Make sure that you have time. Make sure that you're not, well, we had a call yesterday. Same thing. This was 9 years ago. And I'm like, I'm really sorry to hear what happened or what could have happened or whatever. 9 years ago, you were far below that statute, and there's nothing we can do to help you. So make sure that it's within that 2-year time period or 1-year time period if it's the University of Utah. And then 2, find out, well, just talk to us. And we're going to tell you, we're going to shoot to you straight whether you have a claim or not. Because, for example, in this malpractice case that I kind of briefly touched on, where it's a $951 million verdict, that company was defunct, bankrupt, the medical facility that it went after, and I'll be a monkey's uncle if they see a dime of that $951 million.
Yeah, not one penny.
And how much went into it, what type of cost went into it, what type of expense and time went into it. And so if you're a plaintiff who's been wronged and you're sitting there with a piece of paper that says you have a $951 million verdict, it's worthless if you can't collect it.
Yeah. And I will say this, and this is something that I've learned from you, Tyler. You know, we've now worked together 10 years. The math has to math. It still has to make sense. And so even though if we can prove malpractice but there's no future damages, cuts the case off at the knees.
Right.
No pun intended.
Careful out there.
I know. But it's one of those things where we have that hard conversation all the time of like, look, this is a grueling process that's defended vigorously. Doctors, guys, aren't like an auto insurance company who might make the prudent decision of like, we're going to spend $10,000 on an attorney, and even though there might be some question of liability, it makes good sense to pay out the $30,000 policy limit. Doctors, in a lot of cases, they hold the right of first refusal on whether to even allow the case to settle. So even if the insurance company, the defense attorney, and everyone else is saying, guys, we've got some exposure here, the doctor will say, nope, go to trial and force you into spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and they may say, I did nothing wrong. So, no, I'm not going to accept that.
Yeah.
And it affects their, and rightfully so, and it's a concern, and we're not insensitive to it. It affects their insurances and premiums and all those things, and we get that. But there has to be accountability. But, yeah, that doctor has the right to say yes or no, and then you potentially are into that case hundreds of thousands of dollars in expert fees.
But what they'll hear, and I hear this a lot from people, is they finally tell me, Jaren, you're the first one that's told me the math side of this. Because for me and Tyler to decide to take a case on, we know ahead of time on a medical malpractice case, we might spend $50, $100, $200,000 on experts, where an auto accident case might not be into it that much until later in the case. Versus some of these cases, we've got to get experts immediately. And so, and then on top of that, you have damages caps in Utah and different things. So even if you get a $951 million verdict, the damages cap for pain and suffering is $450,000. So that whole, it doesn't matter if a jury awards $1 billion.
Unless there's death involved.
But if there's no death involved, that $450,000 cap applies, and that judgment all gets reduced down to whatever your future medical bills were, any past medicals that you can count, and that's it. And so, $100 million doesn't matter the number of millions, all gets reduced down to $450,000 plus whatever you can show in future care.
The key is maximizing the net result. And numbers look great. We have them too. We put them on our website because it's indicative of obviously what you have, what you're doing, and you have the ability to go out and get it. But then the net result to our clients is the most important, okay? Not the big numbers, because after expenses are paid, experts are paid, attorneys' fees are paid, what will our clients net in their pocket? That's what we care most about.
Well, and we don't have one settlement, anything on our website that isn't something we collected, the full value.
Correct.
And so that's something that's important to us, is that, again, we're not getting a judgment that you'll never collect on. It's anything we've listed is stuff that we've earned for our clients.
I got a judgment for a client years ago for $120 million. Not on our website.
On our website. And why?
Because we didn't collect it. So
is that the one that 10th Circuit stole from you?
No. It's a different case. We can talk about it another time, but sad case. But yeah, but no, not on our website, because never will collect it. Yeah. So, it doesn't really mean, it means nothing to my client and our clients because you don't collect it. What does that do for our clients? Yeah. So anyways, reach out to us if you think you may have a claim for malpractice. WeWinInjuryLaw.com is the best way to reach out to us. You can also call us 877-WE-WIN-FOR-YOU. That's we win, number 4, letter U, we win for you. And or contact us on social media and through this podcast. So we would really appreciate you subscribe, share. That would be amazing. Until next time, everybody be safe out there. Leave early, slow down, stop running red lights.